Representative Simon.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'm glad that we had a discussion just a little bit earlier about Indiana and about what is or isn't radical, because I'd like to talk about that a little bit while we have both Secretary Ritchie and Representative Kiffmeyer here. And I think something that's been lost in this discussion is that we are talking about a constitutional amendment. This is a big deal. Representative Erdahl, Representative Beard, others who have been here a long time, we don't normally, that is until recently, do these all the time. Now apparently we do. So we're taking strong policy preferences, which don't need to be in the Constitution, and putting them in the Constitution. You know, I did some research, and if you look at NCSL, it's all there on their website. There are 31 states with some sort of voter ID requirement. 8 have sort of the hard requirement, as Mitt Romney might say, the severely conservative requirement, and that's what this would be. Then another 7 have a photo ID requirement, but it doesn't have to be government issued. It could be your, fitness club card, or it could be some other photo ID card. And then there are another 16 states that have some ID requirement, but not necessarily a photo. It can be a utility bill or something else. So 31 states. Only one state in the country, only one, has done this by constitutional amendment, and that's Mississippi. So now our one peer, if we pass this, will be the state of Mississippi. Even conservative states with conservative legislators, thoughtful, serious people like we have here, who are trying to do something that they feel strongly about, even they showed the self-discipline and the self-restraint not to put a simple policy preference in the Constitution. That's not what we're seeing here. We are seeing really the opposite of conservatism, the opposite of self-discipline, of self-restraint, and of not doing what feels good. What we are seeing here is constitutionalizing policy differences. And by doing that, we're basically writing in permanent ink. We are putting very serious subject matters beyond the reach of future legislatures from all practical purposes. We are imposing our will on future generations in a way that a statute doesn't. We've heard today a lot of technical issues with a very technical subject matter. We've heard a lot of definitions that we don't know about. We've heard that this is not a simple thing. I know how this issue polls, and I understand why it polls that way. People aren't dumb or wrong for telling a pollster that they think this might be a good idea on its surface. But there's a lot more to it than that. I think we would all agree. And by putting these things and these definitions in the Constitution, never to be changed again unless by another constitutional amendment, I think we're really, really playing with fire here. And I think we have to think about that. Phrases like substantially equivalent, at no charge, provisional balloting, these are not defined here. And I really ask people, particularly the more senior legislators in the room, I named 2 already, to really think about what you're doing here. Do you really want to start this arms race, by the way? And I don't mean this to be partisan and not to be, but for the last 4 years, when Democrats were in charge, Democrats showed some self-discipline and self-restraint. Talk to former Speaker Kelleher about the number of times interest groups and partisans approached her about putting things in the Constitution to get around Governor Pawlenty. And she said no. And she was right to say no, because you don't monkey around with the Constitution unless you absolutely have to. So I'm just warning people, and this shouldn't get partisan, but I am warning you that if you do this, you did it already once last year and you're doing it again, if you do this, there will be no restraint. Very little restraint, I fear, and I do fear it because I don't cheer it. There will be very little restraint or no restraint the next time Democrats get control of the House or Senate. And why ought there be? Why should there be? So I urge you between now and when this gets to the floor, because we know the result here, I hope the senior grown-up voices in the room, in your caucus, and I mean that respectfully, it's not sarcastic. I mean the people who I think a great deal of, and you know who you are, Representative Beard and Erdahl and others, but not just senior members. I hope you really, behind closed doors, we don't have to see it, you don't have to put out a press release, I hope you can talk some sense into some of your colleagues who feel very strongly about an issue, and I respect that. I respect the differences we have here. Very thoughtful people can have differences of opinion here, but I hope you who perhaps are more senior around here or otherwise can really impress upon your colleagues the arms race that you're starting here, because there won't be any restraint like there was in the 4 years that Democrats had control of the House and Senate. I can guarantee you that restraint, that self-discipline, that small c conservatism, if you will go out the window, and I don't think you want to go there. So if you want inflation-adjusted minimum wage, or you want a Buffett rule, or you want a right to health care, or a right to privacy in the Constitution, all things that people on the left want to do and feel very strongly about, and poll very, very well. If you ask somebody and they told a pollster, of course I'm for the right to privacy or right to health care, just watch it. Just watch it. And I hope you have a very fruitful discussion in your closed-door caucus meetings about that.
Well, Senator Simon. It's going to take a lot longer if people aren't cooperative. And I appreciate your comments, Representative Simon. I would like to point out, when you talked about the states that didn't do this constitutionally, I will point out that we did pass this in the legislature last year statutorily, and the governor did veto the legislation. So I just wanted to make that clear as well. I'm going to move on to the next person, and please.